Yes! I'm feeling great!
Oh, jeez. Oh, we totally haven't been drinking before this shoot, folks.
Well, I had to make a dramatic entrance. I'm sorry.
Mike. Mark? Are you really that sorry?
No.
Neither am I.
And welcome, everybody, to today's podcast. You are listening to the Tangent Kings. Roll it. All right, let's get into it, shall we? Once again, welcome to tonight's broadcast. I am G. Michael Franksis. Wow. And I am here with my partner in crime, Mr. Benks. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm good, dude. My dude, how you doing today, bud?
Oh, dear God.
I should have had more Malibu rum. So the viewers, because none of you asked for this information, but I feel suddenly compelled under the influence of the alcohol to tell you, and I'm not drunk, I promise, I'm just a little inebriated, and I made my sales goal today at my job, so I'm happy, and I'm going to be in a good mood. Now, you see this chalice before you? Yeah, thank you, sir. I'll take the pat on the back where I can get it. You see this chalice that I brought here? You viewers, I'm holding it up to the camera now. I filled up that about much with some Dodge Ram, Malibu rum. Oh, there's still some left. Let me finish it up. And the rest is up with orange juice, but it was delicious, and I just felt like sharing that suddenly with you. Not that there's any part of the outline, I just felt like sharing it now because, well, for glob's sake, it's called the Tangent King, so why not go on some bloody fantastic tangents whenever we can, you know? So, anyway.
You do realize that bloody is a swear word, right?
Oh, yeah, I know bloody's a swear word. Don't rhyme it. Wait, the Scots took us from us English when we did invade their country a bunch of times, but it's not our fault that they didn't know how to defend themselves properly. From the Dodge Ram British Empire, that's right. Pip pip cheerio.
Good God, I'm gonna have to rename myself Pandora.
Pandora's box, yeah! Well, the British were a bunch of tyrants, is what they were. We don't need them. We could use the tax revenue, but not like we see any of that. But I know nothing about British politics. I don't know if that's accurate or not. So, Sargon of Cod, if you ever watch this show, please correct me on how taxation properly works in the United Kingdom.
Well, now that you've mentioned the United Kingdom, I did pick up a little bit of interesting trivia.
Really?
And it involves the UK. And I sort of knew all of this, but as of yesterday, all the dots in my head just went click, 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 click. And it has to do with the Royal Marines.
Ooh, now, tell me more.
Well, Her Majesty's Royal Marines, their official slow march is one that is called the Brzenski March. Which, obviously, it comes from Imperial Russia.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, that's just getting warmed up. My knowledge of history on this topic might be a little bit rusty, but if I remember correctly, when it came to the Brzenski Regiment, it wasn't just some run-of-the-mill regiment within the Russian Imperial Army. This regiment had the unique distinction of being the personal bodyguard of the Tsar.
So the Brits ripped off the Praetorian Guards of the Tsar then, right?
Not necessarily. There's actually... this is my hypothesis about it, all right? The march was adopted for Her Majesty's Royal Marines in 1964. So what I'm thinking was this, and incidentally, it was adopted by Lord Mountbatten, who was Admiral of the Fleet at the time. My hypothesis is he adopted that for the Royal Marines just as a way to say f*** you to the Soviets.
You heard it here, folks. We got Mike actually swearing on a podcast. Now we're getting good.
Didn't you watch
that's
last
actually
week's
pretty cool,
episode?
Next week tonight. I don't even remember. You probably did swear. I don't even remember you swearing. I'm not gonna lie.
Did.
Oh, you did? We could have. Why didn't you go for 2? In a PG-13 rated podcast, you're allowed to swear at least once. I've more than broken that rule, ladies and gentlemen.
That's why I replace it. That's why I replace it with a duck quack.
We should tell Discord. You can bleep that out. Discord and the Honest Angels. Also, thanks for watching, guys. If you can leave a comment on the YouTube video, that'd be fantastic. We should just tell them to, like, record themselves making, like, random guttural noises, and then we just use that as a censor out the swear word.
I am going to hate you tonight.
If you haven't already, I'm not doing my job.
Well, I mean, we're only 6.5 minutes in, and I'm already going to have a hell of a lot of editing to do.
Not that. It's just a couple of bleeps. How hard could it be? 10 hours later. Oh, man, that was so much harder than it actually was. But no, shout out to Honest Angels and watching the show. Thank you.
Dude, stop saying the name.
Stop saying the word. Thanks, guys, for freaking watching our show. Appreciate it. And let's see what else. Yeah, if you could actually record yourself like making like a second, like a half a second long noise, like going like brah, or ah, or going or oh, or or something like that, right? I'd be like, the funniest one. If we we'll pick one out of it, funniest one. We'll see if it works, and if it does, we should just use that as our sound effect.
Or we could we just have them record themselves punching you in the gut, and we'll just use that.
I feel like a part of me's got like half of my brain is like contaminated with like the gay Tourette's, and the other part of me is like contaminated with like Jim Carrey from Liar Liar.
Don't you dare tell that story.
Hey! Should or should not tell the story about how I got accosted by
Do not tell the story, because that's
fantastic
do not
men
tell the story.
Today at
do
work.
Not.
I should tell this. So one of them.
No!
No, this one guy is dressed up like a peacock, and they were some of the most flamboyant gentlemen I've ever have. One of the guy, now this is his words, so you can't say I'm being offensive, because he said this, so therefore I have a cop out. But we sat down on the couch because I'm a furniture salesman. Not that you needed to know that. And we sat down on the couch. And he said, yeah, I like this couch, but I don't like the color. It's like, what's wrong with the color? And he makes, whatever X comment in here. And he says, look, gay, but I'm not that gay. And I'm like, that's freaking hilarious, man. As we basically just kept saying that's what he said for like the next 20 minutes. And it was freaking hilarious. There are other things that were said that I shall not list, because we are trying poorly to be a PG, maybe 13, PG podcast. But, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Some great guys came in today. And where are we at for our outline tonight, Mr. Mike?
I was just about to say, should I just go over this before we go completely off the rails?
How hard can we tangent? Maybe we can tangent for a whole hour and never even touch the outline.
No.
The 69th episode, we shall do that. And then we'll do it again at our 420th episode as well.
Praise it be God if we ever get that far. But anyway.
Hallelujah! Holy crap! Anyway.
So, tonight's topic. I figured we'd work a little... Oh! I forgot to say, Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry early Christmas.
Merry Jew-Miss and a happy Hanukkah. That's my and I forgot. For the other holiday, it's not Kwanzaa. I mean, it is, but it isn't. It's what is it? Festivus. That holiday, the non-denominational religious holiday, Festivus for the rest of us. It's a Seinfeld joke, folks.
Mm-hmm.
So happy Festivus, folks.
So anyway, tonight we're going to be discussing.
Commence the airings of grievances. Anyway, keep going.
Tonight we're going to be discussing who is thy king. Is it the newborn king?
It's me.
Or is it something else?
It's me.
No, it is not. Anyway. You goofball.
Surprise plot twist. It's Jake all along.
That's going to get memed.
Correct!
If it's not memed now, it will be in a week.
Anyway, and then if we have time, we'll probably diverge into something else. Hopefully not that dumpster fire we started with.
I love the dumpster fire chat. I went through 4 accents and talked about a lot of things that were important, and getting hit on by gay guys was
I had an
hilarious.
anxiety attack.
During the podcast or 5 minutes ago, because I was like, wow, that's like a quiet anxiety attack. You're like, ah!
You didn't hear me
And
screaming and freaking out?
No, because the sound keeps cutting out. All the guys in the Bleep Masters, it's called Bleep Masters now. All the guys in the Bleep Masters are like, hey, we got our bingo card. Let's see how many times Benks interrupts Bank. And I'm just like, hey, boys. My boys. And I'm just like, I don't I mean, I do interrupt you, but it's not intentional, because it's there's a slight delay in the sound, but also the sound cuts out. So I'm talking still, and then they're just like, wait, Mike, can I say something, guys? And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll shut up now. Anyway, it was a fantastic dumpsters fire. What are you talking about?
Well,
God,
it just means I'm gonna be it's gonna be hell editing that. But anyway, but I figured.
I'll tell Ozzy I said hi.
Oy. Anyway,
Lord of hell, children. Anyway,
after we talk about our main topic and any tangents that come up, I figured we're gonna do something a little different this week. Instead of a book quote, I'm gonna throw in a movie scene, which I thought was absolutely beautiful, and there's a point to it.
Is it a?
What exactly it is, I don't know yet, but we'll get there.
Okay. Can I guess what film is? Can you at least tell me what film it's from? Wait. No, don't tell me. Don't tell me now. Just keep going. I'll find out eventually.
Yeah, you'll find out at the end of the cast, dude. But and then we'll call it a night. So, Mr. Benks, are we ready?
I feel like you asked me that 20 minutes ago. Yeah, Mike.
I asked you 15 minutes ago. But
I'm ready. It's like how many voices can Benks do in the span of an hour? Answer: too many.
He's already done far too many.
You tell me that, and then I say far too many. Then you agree with me. But then I'm like, or maybe I haven't done enough yet.
Oh dear
But
God. Anyway,
you're like, I don't enjoy this, but inside Mike's like, oh my gosh, this is so funny.
Anyway, so before we roll into our main topic tonight, you had sent me the message of this idea to do for today's podcast, and for whatever reason, I thought of the collect from Christ the King Sunday. Now, for those of you who aren't Catholic, what the collect is, it's basically an introductory prayer for the Mass. So we'll have all the shenanigans. We'll get up, we'll sing a song, the priest will process in, then we'll do, depending on the season, we'll often do either the Gloria, a Kyrie, etc., and then we'll have something called the collect, which is basically, just, all right, let's get this rolling, let us pray. Almighty and eternal God, da 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 da. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, thy Son who lives and reigns. Amen. Anyway, that's a little off topic. But, for the traditional crowd, this is the collect for Christ the King Sunday, and yes, it'll tie in. Almighty and eternal God, who hast wished to restore all things through thy beloved Son, the King of the universe, graciously grant that all the families of the Gentiles, separated by the wounds of sin, may be subjected to his most gentle rule. And I'm thinking, Christ came...
Oh, there's no amen.
I'm sorry?
I said there's no amen at the end. I was waiting for that.
Well, I sort of cut that out because it's a bit long.
Oh.
I just wanted to get the actual gist, the point into this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not actually saying mass right now, dude. I can't. I'm not a priest. Despite of what you might see in our intro.
I only look like a priest. Sorry, children. I only played a priest on a TV. I'm not actually Catholic. I'm just Charleston Heston.
Oh.
See, this is the beautiful part about a little alcohol. You start pulling things out of places you didn't even know existed.
Yeah, but you see
we
how
gotta get you inebriated.
Dear God. Anyway, but you see where it sort of ties in, right?
Of course, yeah. Right. Well, it's like it's like this. I mean, I'll put it this way. Or sorry, I interrupted your thought. You finish your thought, and then I'll go on for like 40 minutes.
No, that train of thought already derailed. So go ahead.
Oh, did it? Okay. So I was kind of just thinking about this today, and I remember in Malcolm Muggeridge, who was a world famous journalist several years ago, like decades ago. Ravi Zacharias, the famous theologian, was a big fan of Malcolm Muggeridge, so I heard about him. He wrote a book, Malcolm Muggeridge, wrote a book called The End of Christendom, and he said that basically Christ isn't just the source of all life, right? Which it's like, well, duh, of course he is. But like, you start to realize that, oh crap, let me adjust this. My foot's falling asleep. That you don't just realize that Christ is just the source of everything. To paraphrase his point, I think in the opening chapter of The End of Christendom, and it's a very short book. It's just like the transcript of a couple lectures he gave at the end of his life, or at the end of his college teaching career. And he said something to the effect that I mean. Just the way, for example, the Western nations of the world, that they abide in Christ, they deserve blessings. Then if they don't abide in Christ, they don't, because Christ is the source of blessings, right? He's the source of all living things. That it's kind of funny in my own philosophical travels and psychological journeys, just out there in the world, learning about this person. You keep coming back to that core, not just that core truth of Christianity and Christ, but you start to realize not only how unique Christ is compared to all the other belief systems and religions and deities in the world. Not only that, but you also start to realize, like, this is a framework for, this is the only way that the world's ever going to improve, is ever going to change, because the world is like sort of locked in this repeating pattern of cycles where it just keeps kind of going over and over again, and Christ is sort of the figure that comes in and breaks that cycle. I'm still listening to the audiobook of G.K. Chesterton's What's Wrong with the World, which I highly recommend. He's not only a very entertaining author, he's very easy to grasp as well. He also has some very, very deep, really chunky, enjoyable content that's like, I can just savor that and work through that and kind of unpack what that means. Like, okay, well, that means this, that means this, that means this. But the whole point of it's just like, as a man, as a human being, what do we decide to make our God, right? And if it's anything other than Christ, that you're going to be living with a God that can't ultimately fulfill you, and is going to leave you not only hollow, but like it's sort of like there's things you could enjoy, but there's like something specifically that's designed within us to be the role of God in our lives. And if we don't have God, you're going to fill that with anything you can. Anything you can. I hate to use the term, there's a God-shaped hole in your heart, because evangelicals use that for years, and always like bothered the F out of me, because I'm like, I get it, you're not wrong, but the way you say it just bothers me, so shut up. But we do that. We do it with stuff with politicians. We do that with institutions like the Supreme Court. I'm looking at you, John Roberts, you chotch. But we do that with the Supreme Court. We do it with the presidency. We look to the state in a lot of ways these days to step into the role and be our God, right? And it just start to notice that if it's not God that's in the role of God, right? We not only interject ourselves into it, but also like we create this opportunity for the devil to come in and put a counterfeit in there. Because for example, if the devil's the one putting the counterfeit in, and he designed the counterfeit or he angles the counterfeit, you're basically worshiping him. So ultimately, it's like you have something hollow or you got something fulfilling. You've either got God or you've got some kind of a counterfeit God.
Or as I put it in our show notes, I call it more of a God King. And no, I'm not talking about Jeremy Boring. But
got him.
What? Oh, anyway. But yeah,
that's an E slapper.
Yeah, that's one heck of a knee slapper there.
Heck of a deal.
Yeah, because not only do these persons or even things, which I'll get to in a minute, it's not just that they give the law, their divine commandments and dictas, but they also, in a way, rule as an earthly king. Oh boy, I'm cutting that out. But
what? Wait, which part are you cutting out there?
Just my rambling there.
Why? Just leave it in there, Mike. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
No.
Ah!
I'll just leave in the part about the God King.
Well, okay, you better edit it smoothly. Make that edit flow like butter. So help me, Bob. See, I didn't swear on God's shoulders. I swore on Bob's shoulders. And you're going to be forever wondering, who's Bob? Exactly. I'm keeping you in perpetual suspense. Anyway. But yeah, it's like that. It's like, on whose authority rests, not just whose authority rests the title of rests the divine mantle, but like, are you going, it's like, I mean, it's a theme you see in the Old Testament. Like regularly you've got God's prophets, right? The Lord's prophets of saying things like, you got them saying things like, why do you worship deities made of stone, who cannot hear, who cannot think, who cannot see, cannot touch, cannot breathe, cannot feel anything, cannot connect with you, pretty much, right? You literally just carve something out of stone and you ascribe some kind of meaning onto it, but ultimately what you made was meaningless because it's just a counterfeit God. We're going to pray to the rain god to give us rain. But that stone has no power. The only power it has is that you think, I've ascribed meaning to it. I'm going to chant to myself that this God can do something when the reality is it can't. It's like an affirmation. It's a habit. But it only changes how you feel about it. It doesn't change how, it doesn't give that God any power. It might give this whole society some kind of power, but that's just a self-induced frame of mind. It doesn't, there's no power to it versus like Christ actually has the power and he proved it. I've got the power, boys! And then he rises from the dead 3 days later. It's like, surprise, I'm back! I was going to swear, but I can't. I mean, I could, but Mike's already complaining about editing, so I'll be like, fine, I'll make it easy for you, but I'm highly reluctant here.
Hey, it's deeply appreciated, man.
Oh, sure, I bet.
But
deeply these nuts. But anyway.
But
you've got that. What do you make your God?
Yep, and you pointed to this, touched on this too. But like the world gives us many, as I call them, God Kings. And that part of that was just a nod to Daily Wire, but. But you have modern celebrities who think that they're the height of perfection with their with some sort of virtue. But you also have material and some even non-material things like money, power, prestige,
sex.
Well, I was gonna skip over that,
That's
but
up there.
yes, but
It's there. It's like
yes,
makes
I
you feel how
know.
powerful. Like
I wrote
like
the show
validate.
notes. I know what's there.
See, you can do funny voices too, and it's actually great. You're just salty that you didn't do that. I beat you to the punch of doing
I
funny
was gonna
voices before
skip.
you did.
I was gonna skip that punch because I
Well,
was.
you need to say it. How many children are watching our show? Are your kids gonna watch this in 20 years and be like, wow, Dad, you said the sex word on a podcast on YouTube. We don't even watch YouTube now. We're all on Rumble and Parlor because we're hip. And you're like an old boomer. Dad, they're not gonna say that. Maybe they might say the stuff about Rumble, but like, they're not gonna say that. They're not gonna watch this 30 years later if my kids are watching it. Hi, kids, I love you. I hope you're doing well in school. I hope I'm homeschooling you. And your mom says hi. I don't know if I'm still with. I don't know what things are going on in the future, but I love you, kids. Bye. Anyway, future shout out to my 7,000 children. I don't know how many kids I'm having. I hope it's 4. I hope I have 4 kids. My future wife is watching this. Hey, honey, thanks for going back and watching all my old episodes. Appreciate it. Love you. Hope I'm making you lots of money because I'm awesome. Anyway.
Yeah, but my point being, and you sort of touched on this. None of these can give any sort of lasting happiness. So we're being sort of driven to try to get more and more out of it. For example, in terms of things not giving us lasting happiness, and for Christmas, I think it was 2011 or 2010. My sister got me. And I used to be a very big PC gamer, not a YouTuber, but I played a lot of PC games. But my favorite one of all time was one that my sister got me for Christmas, 2010, and that was Medal of Honor Airborne. Despite the fact that everybody I talked to about it hated it, I loved that game. I still somewhat play it today. But it's a very rare occasion with kids. But with Medal of Honor Airborne, and I guess computer games in general, they're fun. They're a good way to unwind, especially after a stressful day. But you hit quit, and it's just okay.
Yeah.
And so that's the good. I'm not going to call it the good side, but it's not. It's the not bad side of that sort of thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the problem is that so many people just demonize video games for so many years. So I think there's still kind of this line in your head thinking like, wow, I should be doing something else. I should be doing something more productive. And it's like, it's a hobby. Just have fun and relax. If it's not ruling your life, it's not bad. Chesterton pointed this out. He said, so much of our lives are spent trying to fit our souls into an existing mold, and we wonder why it doesn't fit, when the reality is we should be fitting the molds to our souls, right? And what he means by that is you have to be true to yourself, right? Or true to the true person that you are, the authentic you, and you build something that supports that, of you telling the truth and being and living who you are, versus trying to fit into someone else's mold and you have to pretend that everything works out just fine, right? Like, if you like video games, just freaking play video games, man.
As long as it rules your life, that's a problem. Yeah.
Right. Like, if you got a full-time job, you're saving money, right? You're investing in it, right? And you're taking care of all your responsibilities. It's okay to play video games, man. Like, especially if you're a YouTuber, like, of course you're going to play video games, man. So it's just so frustrating. It's like, people just want to put something in a category and just write it off. And it's like, okay, can we like look, how about we open up the category box and like, okay, can you explain why it's unhealthy? No, you just rack your brains. I'm like, okay, thanks, Mom. Appreciate it. It's like, I get it. I understand. I understand that, it's like, you don't want it to rule your life. You don't want it to take over. You don't want it to be the most important thing in your life. Of course not. But it's
that's
like
sort of off topic, but
no, it is because there's a point I'm making with this. Is like, there's something that you enjoy, right? And then there's something that kind of consumes you, right? That takes over your life, that you like, in a lot of ways you worship, right? Like, it's an idol, right? Like just the pure acquisition of money, right? that you can't stop. You keep going and going and going. Not that acquiring money is bad, but just like that becomes the only thing you do. That's only important to you. It's like, of course, that becomes your god. You know, it's what you do with the money. Money's
Yeah,
not evil itself. It's
yeah.
what
I was
you
gonna say
do with it as a person.
none of these things necessarily are evil. Now, I could just hear someone
Yeah.
screaming in my ear right now. Well, Jesus said that money is the root of all evil. No, he didn't. He said the
He said,
love of money is the root of all evil. There's
"Yep."
a big difference.
Do you know it's always poor people that say that too?
Yeah.
Like it's always people that don't have money. They say, "Well, I'm free of the love of money." No, you're not, because you don't have any of it. You're going to be controlled by it because you lack it, right? Because it's a need that to take care of yourself, for goodness sakes. But it's nonsense. But it's like it's that's the same thing with alcohol, right? It's like I mean, we all think of alcohol as bad because alcoholics, right? It's like alcohol
I'm
isn't evil or good. It's
Yeah, it
it's
just
it's
is.
the person. Yeah, it's the person. It's the person that is.
Of
It's
course
not
I'm
intrinsically.
sorry.
Oh, did
I
you
just
say
have to
something?
interject
I
real
you
quick.
come.
Yeah, I've just got to interject something right here. You know, I just can't help but say this. You know, I'm Catholic. Alcohol is part
Right,
of my religion.
right.
I think I already covered that though.
It's
But
yeah. It's a line from Mandalorian. It's a weapon. It's part of my
yeah, I
religion.
know. And it was
Which is a
someone
great
made that
line.
into a meme. Yeah, it said,
Wait,
yeah, Muslims, alcohol is bad. Evangelicals, alcohol is bad. Catholics, alcohol is part of my religion.
you're like, oh great, we got another crappy pope. All right, cheers up, boys. We're gonna be hitting the pub a bit more often this year. But
First of all,
but no, in
I'm
seriousness,
pro
like,
Francis. Second of all,
right.
there goes that train of thought.
Wait,
But
is he the pope right now?
yeah,
Is he a good one?
he is.
Because I don't know. I don't follow him. I don't follow it.
Well, we could cover this in another episode, but overall, a lot of his image is being manipulated by the media.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'll probably touch back on this in a minute. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people are just seeing what he does in the media, and a lot of people are reading his works with their own ends in mind, which kind of skews the meaning of his encyclicals. But overall, he's a
Mm-hmm.
good. I think he's a good pope. Uh, an
Mm-hmm.
administrator, I still have questions about a few things, but overall,
Of course.
yeah. But anyway,
Yeah. But no,
getting back
but my
on
whole point,
topic
my
though.
or well, this is where I'm trying to tie it in. We're kind of going on mini tangents here because I'm inebriated. But my whole point here is like, it's not the thing that's all. Sometimes it is the thing. Sometimes it is a thing. But more often than not, when the case with money, with alcohol, and I think smoking too. It's like it's not that it's evil. Some things are harmful for you, obviously, like doing meth. Right? That's not good, obviously. Um, but like, there are things that's like it's neutral. It's the person that's either good or evil, right? It's like what Solzhenitsyn said. This Alexander Solzhenitsyn, the guy that wrote Gulag Archipelago, he says the dividing line between good and evil goes right down between the human heart, and that's kind of where you got this God King thing factoring in, right? Is when why does it seem like when God's in his proper place, both in your life and in society, it's like everything seems to just be in balance or in focus, right? And what I mean by God, I mean Christ, because I'm obviously being completely exclusive, because the truth is exclusive, and Christ is the answer, and if you don't like it, you can shove off. But I'm obviously being facetious on purpose, folks. Put down your pitchforks, but it's a joke. But it's like that. It's like, what are you pointing into the role of God? Is it your rage? Is it lust? Right?
Yeah.
Is it a drug use? Right? It's like, what are you compensating for? What is it that's eating away at you on the inside that you're trying to avoid, that's causing you all this damage, right? Because you just look at like what's the fruit of it, the thing, right? Like, okay, what fruit does drinking bear in your life, right? What fruit does it bear? And look at the fruits and say, is it a bunch of good? Is it bad? Is it mixed? And then you can find out where that a tree by its fruits, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
you got like alcohol, if it's got good fruits, which for certainly in my life I drink in moderation, it's like of course it's got fantastic roots. I mean, I basically only drink around friends and a good company. Um, And what are the fruits of say, for example, smoking a tobacco pipe? I rarely do that. I do maybe once a month, twice a month. Usually only do it with friends too. It's good
Hmm.
fruit because you can socialize and connect with people, and great way to relax. Great way to
Yeah.
relax and work off some stress. Or video games. Same thing with video games.
Yeah, but any of
So it's got all
these
this stuff.
indulged, if you indulge in any of these, though, enough, it could very easily turn into an unkind master. Like, for
Yeah.
example, the first thing that came to mind when I wrote that line was, what's it, which actor was it? Robert De Niro. It was like a couple of months ago when this pandemic first started. Uh, it sounds an awful lot like a love of money when he said something to the effect of, I'll be lucky if I make $7 million this year. He said, I read that on a Facebook headline and my jaw dropped. I'm like, dude, I'll be lucky to make $7 million in my lifetime, and you're complaining about 1 year. But you see,
Yeah.
but you see, when you have this love of money, for example, it just compels you for more and more and more, or to
Hmm.
constantly fret about maintaining this high social lifestyle that you're never truly at peace.
Yeah. It's funny. People always talk about like I want to get paid more at my job. We all want to get paid more at our job. The problem is that usually when people make more money, more often than not, they start spending more money. Their habits are that they're still spending more money. It's like I get paid more, and then it's like I've got this larger margin of like my living costs are low, but my expenses are I earn more and my cost of living is low, so I'm going to increase my cost of living until it's right below my what I make. And it's like, well, of course you don't have any money. Of course you're worried about money because you're overspending. That's what De Niro's saying. I mean, he's in a totally different income bracket than you or me, but like his standard of living is obviously so much higher. So him making 7 million a year is like that's enough for you and me. Probably for
Uh,
lifetime because our expenses are so low. He's like on a different universe, and love his movies. He's a great actor, but person seems like a jerk. I don't know. Seems like he's got his own secret service everywhere he goes. But that's the point. It's like, um, if you're trying to tell us lowly peasants, us lowly peons, that you know, I'm just like you. I'm only making 7 million this year. It's like I'm making like some people. He's watching this show is like, if you make 70,000 a year, like good for you. But like it's like it seems like most people don't even make like 50 these days. Um, 50 grand. So it's like completely different worlds. It's like I'm part of the elite social clubs of the coastal parts of the country, and the rest of us are just like we're in the so-called flyover states. We're like, oh yeah, it don't matter because all you're doing is you're just the time. You're just inhabiting the lowly earth-sucking land that I have to fly over in my luxury jet. It's like, come on, man.
and
Like,
and
get
that,
get
folks,
out of
is
here.
what Pope Francis was talking about when he condemned the building of walls versus building bridges. Not this, not this nonsense about the border wall.
That's different.
Yeah, that's a different topic.
Yeah.
Because he himself has said, a nation has the right to defend its borders and control its immigration. But that's a whole nother video.
Right.
But
Right. Yeah.
but
Oh, it should.
anyway,
I mean, we should have another episode about it sometime. I will say one brief, very, very brief thing about it, and I'll surmise it. And it's well said by Stefan Molyneux, host of Free Domain Radio, biggest philosophy conversation on the planet. He said, "You or no, it was either him that said this, and I think it might have been Milton Friedman that said this as well. But they both said, you can either have open borders and no welfare state, or you have closed borders and a welfare state, but you can't have both because if you have both, um, open borders and a welfare state, not only you're gonna have a flood, you're gonna have a massive flood in of opportunists. You're also gonna bankrupt the whole state because you can't possibly give welfare free to everyone that comes in. You'd have to hypertax your citizens to the point where they're not producing wealth anymore, and then the whole economy crumbles beneath the weight of taxation. But anyway, yeah, it's who you decide to be your god. Um, and sometimes you think
and
when you're not. Go ahead.
and again, and just to use another example, when it comes and we sort of touched on this, the power and prestige with these, building bridges as opposed to walls. Uh, there are, and you see this a lot in media, right? It's I am the bastion of truth, and both right and left wing media outlets do this, and it annoys the flippin' crap out of me. It's why I actually stopped listening to Church Militant, to be honest.
Right.
If I'm being honest here, because it turned into they were just following cardinals with the dubia. That should have been held. I'm sorry, but that should have been just a private matter, to the point where you have even a lot of Catholic media, saying direct. I've actually seen a few times where, for example, Church Militant directly accused the Pope of heresy, which is you don't do that publicly, for one thing. Like Paul didn't even do that to Peter publicly. But you see,
did Peter do it to Paul though?
He might have. I'm not sure. But my point is, if power and prestige become, this come to the level of being this unkind master, then you're just gonna a person is gonna do whatever it takes to maintain that power and prestige. Now, I'm not saying they're like, for example, Church Militant is doing it consciously, because that would be egregious. I think they do have at least some sort of sincere intent, but the way they're going about
Unlike
it is... I'm sorry?
I was going to say, I'm sure they have some kind of sincere intent. I'm sure they do too, unlike Christianity Today and its coverage of Ravi Zacharias.
That's something I'm not familiar with, but that goes to my point. It becomes more about guarding one's viewing and prestige. It becomes more about ratings. Because we have this influence. I don't want to let it go, and I don't want to admit I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And you see it also in the media today with a lot of these, with coronavirus coverage, with the election coverage. We have hundreds of signed affidavits about what was going on in these states. It's like, oh, that's not proof. It's but it's like,
hey,
what I hear is I just don't want to admit I'm wrong, because
that's what it is.
Anyway,
that's what it is. I mean, the problem is that every single time it seems like you just, maybe to the average person or a leftist supporter, it's like you try to criticize the Democratic Party and people start having these lines they learned in college and they start playing them in their heads. Oh, there's corruption on both sides. Oh, there's corruption on both sides. Oh, there's corruption on both sides. It's like, okay, I don't deny that, right? But stop deflecting criticism of the DNC or major liberal people or candidates and say, oh, the Republicans do it too. I'm going to criticize MSNBC or CNN. Oh, well, Fox News is just bad. I didn't say they weren't. It's like, stop deflecting on saying, well, the guy over there is he's doing meth too, and you didn't, arrest him. It's like, no, he's It's like, knock it off. But it's not just that. It's, oh, there's corruption on both sides, therefore criticism is deflected. Oh, the Republicans did this and that. Focus on them, don't focus on us. And it's like, stop giving the Democrats a free pass, man. I'm not a Republican. I'm really not. I voted Republican this election season. That might be the last time I do. I'm conservative, but the point is you try to reduce the other side to the moral equivalency. So when you're caught red-handed, you're just like, oh no, it's not my fault. It's someone else's fault. Someone else's fault. Oh, it's not real socialism, guys. I hear that so often. Oh, it wasn't real socialism, guys. Oh, it's not socialism. It's democratic socialism. What's the difference? Oh, you see, in socialism, things happen, but democratic socialism, we voted in, so therefore it's okay. It's like, the point is still, the end goal is still the point. Whether you take I-94 or 610 to get to a certain city, pretty soon, if you take a different route, you're still going to get to that same city if that's your destination in mind. The point is state control, right? And so you get back to these election fraud we're talking about, which I was going to talk about in a different episode. We probably can talk about it in more detail. It's so unbelievably frustrating that you've got the DNC who spent 4 freaking years, and other people point this out, you have 4 years talking about how Russia hacked the election and it was a fraudulent election, right? And they offered no evidence of it. All the evidence they offered completely evaporated. They went through this whole impeachment scandal, and then CNN quietly drops it like it's hot, right? And says, oh, well, that's too bad. We're just going to stop covering it. And then for this election comes out, it's like, there is no election fraud. There is no possible way it can happen. Joe Biden has been declared the president-elect by it. Don't question Google. Don't question Twitter. The election fraud is disputed. And it is totally legitimate. And then you know what they did this week? Mitch McConnell, who I'm not a fan of, he rewon his seat. I think I believe he's from North Carolina. He rewon his Senate seat. And the media, the DNC or the Democratic media, mainstream media, they went off and they said, "Oh, they hacked the election. They hacked the election." And then you're telling me you're completely at this complete nonsense. You go from one angle of saying there is none to we're gonna turn the stove on full blast hot. There is some to there isn't to there is some, and it's like there is drastically more evidence that you've cheated in the elections. These elections, certainly this past one. That there's more evidence that you've cheated. That I still to this I haven't seen any substantial evidence that Republicans have cheated in any election. I'm not saying they can't. I'm not saying they won't. I'm not saying that. If there's accusations of election fraud with McConnell, like go investigate that, man. Go verify that. Go have signatures. Go line them up with the ballots. Right. That's fine for me. I just want I want there to be a legal, ballot system. Account the legal stuff. But when you've got, just for example, I just found this out last night. Do you know that not only does the company that runs majority of the votes in the United States in major counties, right? Dominion Software, which runs all these voting machines, not only is 75% of the company owned by the Chinese, just for example, I don't know if you knew that, it's owned by the Chinese. There's also a system in the manual in the Dominion voting machines, which is what I voted on. There is a manual in there, and I'll pull up pictures of this too, that they show you how to create ballots. And when I say create ballots, it's so easy to hack this system that you can change the amount of ballots that were counted. You can refeed the same ballots in and have them count a second time. But what I was saying is you can create ballots, as in you have a printout sheet of, just for example, Joe Biden pre-filled in, and you can just feed that into the machine, and it's in the system that lets you do that, right? You're telling me that we had mail-in ballots open way, 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 way early part of the election, and then election night, oh, it looks like, everything's going great. Trump's going to win. Suddenly, oh, sorry, Trump's going to win. So stop. We have to recount later. We don't have them all in. And you keep pumping. And then suddenly you have over 600, in the case of Pennsylvania, you have 600,000 ballots that were counted overnight that were only for Joe Biden, right? And you have some 3,000 for Trump. And you're telling me suddenly they were counted overnight when there's no accountability, when we have video footage of them putting suitcases full of freaking ballots in, right? Where you have all this over and over and over again of election fraud, and you have all this enormous evidence, and you're saying, well, Republicans are just as bad, or others are corrupt on both sides. Do we have video footage of Republicans doing it? Do we have videos of Trump supporters doing it? Oh, the media says, oh, no. New York Times like, oh, no. They cheated too, or they tried to, but they can't cheat. I had this one friend she's got her head so far in the freaking sand. No, she's not part of Writing Club. I'm not saying that. I'm not singling anybody out, but I'm saying with this unnamed friend, who will not know if I mention her, but she's like, oh, nope, Trump tried to cheat because he tried to make it so that USPS didn't what was it? He was trying to defund them so mail-in ballots wouldn't be counted, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's like you've got your head in the sand, you don't look into any of this stuff, you're just like, I'm being fed this, and this is the truth. But it's like it gets to a point where like it's so plainly obvious that it's like you just don't research it, you don't want to see, you don't want to rethink your position, you don't want to reevaluate where you are in your life, And I know, I get it. That's hard. That's not easy. But just like to not do it at all is just it just shows it shows moral decay, especially if like you're not even reasonable when you talk to people, but just like it's frustrating. It's so unbelievably frustrating. The media can just has free reign to just flip on a dime. Today's narrative, it's like the joke I made in like the early podcast, right? For a few episodes a few back, it's evil to eat a sandwich. Tomorrow it's good to eat a sandwich, right? That's the
Mm-hmm.
joke. It's like today it's mayo, next week it's ketchup, and next week it's mayo, and they're trying to say there are these moral principles, but it's like your morality changes every week, right? And then you're trying to it's like it's this propaganda stuff, and it just seems like it's so frustrating because it's like you're being lied to your face, and the whole day it's like the media, Fox News included, it's like they're spending all this time trying to frame something to you so you don't think for yourself, that you don't not only just not even question it, but just like they're trying to frame the opposition in a certain way and word it in a certain way, so they think that, wow, I can't believe they did that. They must be true. Because I get it, they sound like they're telling the truth and they sound authoritative, but you have to look at this stuff, man. So it's just because it's like it's not just it's frustrating. It's like if you have the power in an election cycle to decide who's president, and then you do this fake sham election where, sorry, I know we've got more Trump votes, but we're just going to write in ballots for Biden in Pennsylvania, so Trump loses his 5-point lead until he goes from leading by a lot to losing by a little, and all the courts are like decide, okay, we're not even going to hear the cases. Which, side note, if you, for those who are not aware of this, no courts heard this stuff. There's been hearings, the courts haven't heard it, especially not the Supreme Court. It's not the case have been dismissed. It's like they come up with like arbitrary reasons. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to decide on it because they're scared of riots. And it's a praise to the Supreme Court. But they're not just that. As other courts are like, oh, this is too hot. We don't want to touch it. And it's like, you need to touch it because who else is going to do your job? That's why you're there.
And all this and more, we can fit into another episode. But we need to get to finishing this main topic before we run out of time.
Well, I think we've kind of dabbled on it too. I mean, I just tie it up. Like I mentioned the election stuff too, because it's like when not just when the president's your god. It's not just that. It's like when power's your god, right? And that was kind of the whole point of it. It's like when power's your god, you don't care about playing by the rules. You don't care about the other side, that they're human beings just like you. You don't care about the game. You don't care about the rules of the game. It's power at any cost. It's must be in power. You must rule over your opponent. And then when you win, you have not only the ability to gloat and throw salt in their eyes, and the line from the Romans where they say "Vae victis," woe to the vanquished. I could tell you the story behind it. I won't for time's sake, but just when you worship power, it's power at all costs, right? If I had the power to lock down the country and then party with my rich friends, why wouldn't I, right? Everyone rules for you, but rules for thee, but not for me.
Indeed. But now that we've covered the false god kings, let's talk about the real god king, shall we? And now it feels almost as and I'm saying this more on my part, but it feels like such an injustice that we're giving him such a little bit a time here, but at the end. But hey, when we get the ball rolling, we get the ball rolling. But
well, of course. I mean, I'll say this too. Like, it's not like. I mean, it's like I mean, when you point out what's wrong, it's like, well, it's like you're inevitably pointing to, maybe not inevitably pointing to Christ. That's not necessarily true, but just like, it's. I mean, the point of the episode is kind of pointing out like. Just from the show notes of just like what happens when you not just get it wrong, why it's a problem, and when God's not when Christ isn't the king, right? You're left with a lot of counterfeits that just eat society away as well as your own soul.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to just say though that when you have the true God King, behind me. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. But I despite my English surname, which I'm not going to broadcast, I have a very large piece of Polish heritage. Now, I have a lot of Polish blood in me. My grandmother's full-blooded Polish. My father's half, which leaves me a quarter, but that's the biggest chunk out of all of them. But behind me is a little depiction of the Black Madonna of Częstochowa. And that's all an interesting story in and of itself. But, it's got our Blessed Mother, and she's holding the infant child Jesus. I think that is our true God King. He came meek and humble. And if we, and sort of ties into when he was washing the disciples' feet. I know it's sort of rambling, but there's a point to be made here. When he knelt down, he washed the feet of his disciples. He said, "You call me Lord and Master, and I wash your feet. Therefore, you must do this for others and for each other." And it gets me thinking, wow. Now, our God came. Our true God came. Meek and humble. Born in not even a stable, it was a cave.
Yeah.
That they just sort of threw the animals in.
Yeah.
I think, wow.
Well, that's always like the paradox of Christ is that the highest being of the universe settles for things that are very, very lowly. It's like he's not self-aggrandizing and like in terms like that. Or like, I think Chesterton even said this too, because like I said, we're on a Chesterton spree lately. Or someone said, Ravi Zacharias pointed this out. And he said that the reason why people don't come to Christ is not that it's too high of a gate, it's that it's too low. It's that you have to humble yourself. It means you have to surrender your ego. You have to admit you were wrong, and that's really hard.
Or as Bishop Sheen put it, to see the infant Christ, you have to stoop.
Yes. Because you have to give up your self delusion of a godhood. You have to give up. I can't be the God King. I cannot point myself into the role of God, and I cannot allow Satan to seduce me into thinking that I can be God or I act like God. Right? I think that's America's great sin, and we've had for so many years, is that we've wanted to be we've basically created the philosophical justification for being complete, our own points of complete points of reference. We can just, whatever you feel is therefore true. Whatever you want, therefore, is true. And your reality is the true reality. And then all of a sudden the hate mob comes around and says, no, our reality is the true reality. We're going to beat you up because you're wrong. But we have that problem. And that makes it not just makes it difficult. It's just like you have to give that up, to have. And then you realize once you do that and you mean that, you're like things do get better. Things really do get, because all of a sudden you got this gushing in of not only peace and love and joy, but not just these emotions. It's like you see God's fruit in your life and you're like, thanks God. Like, I'm not perfect. Not that I would know anything about that, but like, I'm not perfect. I'm not. That Christ would die for me, who is imperfect, who's attempting to usurp his throne, whether it's in my own heart or certainly in my attitude, right? To die for someone like me.
Uh-oh.
Like it kind of hits you right where you live.
Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And that, like you said earlier too, that the most important sacrifice in the history of all mankind, the beginning of that, he was born in a cave.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I still get speechless, which is a rarity for me. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we are actually starting to run out of time, so.
Yeah.
Hey, that was fun, wasn't it, folks?
That was a blast. That was honestly the best one I think we had. Like, we went from like dinking around and like having like inebriated hijinks to let's be serious for a bit and have like this whole that's the beauty of tangents, right? Of you get to follow these wonderful interesting threads wherever they lead. It's like this comes to mind. Okay, let's go on that one because they all come back. They all circle back. To that you explore this thread and then you come back to your starting point and this is the whole thing of everything tied together. It's fun. It's a blast.
Yes,
And
it is. Yes, it is.
and we still get to talk about Christ at the end of it too. And it was like, it's
Hmm.
thanks God.
Thank you, Jesus. But anyway, so shall we move on to our movie scene?
Yes, we may.
Now,
Miss your mic. Would you do your movie scene, please?
oh dear Lord. Okay, so I was just sort of dinking around on YouTube, and I came across this one video. It's from a Russian movie, actually. It's called Admiral. Basically, it follows the Russian Civil War from the point of the White Army and the White government, led by Admiral Alexander Kolchak. And there's this one scene, like I said, it was right after a battle. I'll just play it for you, and then I'll explain for those who are on audio, what's going on, because it's in Russian, and in the event you don't speak Russian, I'll sort of uh, dissect it a little bit.
Just explain,
Anyway,
yeah.
yeah, here it goes.
Сколько камер доложить?
Есть. Все один народ православный. Господь их краскал не мазал.
All right, and for those of you who don't speak Russian, and for you, Benks, because you haven't seen a thing, what it is, you have, like I said, it's after the battle, and you have the dead lined up along a mass grave, and you have, dead from both sides, both from the Red Army and the White Army. Anyway, there's this priest going down, he's saying prayers for the dead, and there's these two Russians who are lowering the bodies into the grave. And one of them says to the other one, why are we burying the Reds with the Whites? Sort of like this righteous indignation. And the other one, he said something so beautiful I had to share it. He said, we are all God's children. He didn't paint them in different colors. And that's an interesting thought to leave you right before Christmas. In the aftermath of a battle. And when it came between the White Russians and the Red Russians, it wasn't just, people staring at each other awkwardly or angrily across a dinner table. Mm-hmm. For example, the Bolsheviks, the Red Russians, they would tie Russian clergy to telephone poles using their intestines. So great was the enmity between those two, and that man was able to say that. I'm almost welling up, to be honest.
Yeah,
but
okay.
You see our world today, especially when we're about to have a big family dinner. A lot of us are going to go, have fun with our families, have a dinner with our families. And no, Mr. Waltz, you can't get me from here. Anyway, but we're all God's children.
Waltz doesn't have balls. He can just threaten legal action and fine you. And if you're not scared of that, you have no power here, Waltz.
Wow. But my point is, just remember, when you go to your Thanksgiving dinner, remember that we're all God's children. He doesn't paint us in different colors. So, that being said, deck the halls, not your family.
And all of God's children said, amen.
Amen. Well, great show. But in any case, ladies and gentlemen, we are sadly out of time. So, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you would, Go ahead and like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment if you must.
Please leave a comment. We love reading comments.
Yes, we do. As much as I joke about it.
We love you. Thank you for watching,
yeah, we
guys.
love you guys. Anyway, without further ado, I think I shall say my goodnight. So, good night, everybody. And God bless. And Merry Christmas. Glory to the newborn King. Oh, yeah.
Hey folks, if you liked what you saw, be sure to follow us on Facebook and now on Parler. God bless.